2008, more than 1.8 million veterans have been seen for some type of headache disease within the VA. That accounts for about 14% of all veterans getting care in the VA. During that same time period, more than 730,000 veterans have been diagnosed and cared for with migraine disease.
I was on deployment in Japan, and I fell about 10 to 16 feet off the wing of an aircraft into my head. And shortly after that is when I started having migraines. My diagnosis for the migraines came. It was a few years later. It was much later because in 1996, when I fell and I had that, concussions weren't associated with migraine. So it took a lot of time. It took me fighting for years in order to get a proper diagnosis, and treatment was non-existent. The thing that I would say to a veteran that is suffering from migraines is, first, thank you for your service and thank you for all of the sacrifice that you have made, and you are worthy. Like, you are worth fighting for. Like, you are worthy. And learn to just accept that some things are and some things aren't. And once you can do that, then go about your day and be a fighter for you, because like I said, you are worth fighting for.
The migraine attack for me is just totally disruptive of my life. It's very painful. I can't function very well. Have to be in dark rooms and sitting still for long hours. Getting help from the VA at first was slow, but once it got going, they've been great ever since. It took 3.5 months to get an appointment and to see the doctor to get checked out for this. What would I say to another veteran seeking help? I would say just go for it. Keep pestering them, keep making phone calls. You have to stay with it. And once you get in the VA system, I believe you're picked up and taken care of.
My migraine attacks first started when I was around 22 years old, and it was my first year in the military. The way they've impacted my life is they've gradually, over time, have become chronic, and now I'm out on disability and I'm unable to work. So for me, it's very much having to navigate the VA system, which is very different than any other healthcare system and very different than Social Security or anything like that. So it's and having chronic migraines and not being able to work is devastating. For me, the hardest part about living with migraine is first of all, I call it the thief of time. It steals time. It steals time away from things that I could be doing. It steals time away from my family. And I don't look like someone who has a disability, so no one thinks that I'm disabled or that I suffer as much as I do. There are treatments out there, and it's really just a matter of you being persistent. I find I have to be very persistent. I find I have to keep asking questions. I have to do research on my own and then backtrack and figure out how I can get that paid for through either my private health care insurance, or if I could get the Veterans Administration to pay for that.
My migraine started somewhere after about my third combat tour out of 7 combat tours. I had already suffered 2 concussions from explosions, and so I've had migraines since 2006. Navigating the VA when you have migraine, first of all, I don't think they're very knowledgeable about it. I think there's a lot more that the VA could do to focus on veterans with migraines, because I know for a fact that it's a very prevalent sickness right now, with all the combat and warring that's gone on. The most challenging part living with migraine for me is I never know when I'm going to get hit with another migraine. I won't blame the demise of my marriage, which ended up in divorce, all on migraine. Migraine was a big part of it, compounded with PTSD. So I've got to live with that every day, that, I failed my ex-wife, I failed my children. That's probably the hardest thing I've got to live with migraine.
I would say that the hardest part about living with migraine as a veteran is there's so many things that are involved in that. It's fighting for my health care. It's not knowing. A lot of times it was not knowing how to fight. And also it also has to do with VA doctors themselves. I've had my PCPs where I've had plenty of doctors that have said, well, you just need to start working. You just need to get out of your house more. You're just depressed. And that's hasn't even been the reason why I've been to see them in the first place. So it's not just outside, it's inside as well, where you just feel like even doctors themselves just don't believe you. If I had anything to say to another veteran, I would say the very first thing is don't give up. You're important. Your healthcare matters, and you are worth fighting for. Not only that, but if you don't get the care that you feel that you deserve and that you need, definitely contact the patient advocate's office. That's what they're there for. They're there to fight for you. And I don't feel bad in the least bit. I don't care if you have to call them 10 times a day. That's exactly what they're there for. And they need to do that, and they need to help you.
Talk to someone about it. You don't have to struggle alone. There are many ways that we could offer treatments, even many more than just 5 years ago, 10 years ago. You don't have to suffer. By sharing about your migraine or headache disease, it is not a sign of weakness at all. It's a sign of strength. There are literally hundreds of thousands of veterans like yourself that are living with migraine and headache disease. You don't have to suffer in silence. We can help. And if you talk to one healthcare provider and they're not sure how to help, ask to talk to someone else. We live in a day and age when there's so many different treatment options for you. Know that there's people that care about you. Know that there's people that will listen to you, that will hear your story, that will value what you say, and help come up with ways by which to help treat the headache disease, to treat the migraine, so that you, your family, your loved ones don't have to suffer.